Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen for Hero Arts, and first I have to say I am so sorry for my voice right now. I was teaching at an event recently and I have completely lost my voice. I'm going to try as hard as I can to really emphasize what I'm doing in today's video. So thankfully, I do have this recorded so you can watch along, and there's also going to be a coordinating blog post as well. So today's project, we are going to be watercoloring a background using the new neon liquid watercolors. This is going to create a nice, bright, bold background. So first, let's take a look at the new neon liquid watercolors. There are 8 colors available in these dropper bottles. We have pink, orange, red, yellow, sunshine, purple, green, and chartreuse. On the side of the bottle, it does tell you some instructions on how to use it, and it does say to shake well. So I'm going to make sure before I use any of these, I shake these really well. A great thing about these liquid watercolors is they have this eyedropper top. So you just squeeze the top and it's going to pick up that ink that is in the jar. That's going to help you control how much watercolor you put down. Now, this is actually the first time that I'm using them, so I wanted to swatch them out to get an idea of what each of the colors look like. So I'm going to be using the Hero Arts Luxe White Watercolor Paper. If you have never tried this before, it is absolutely fabulous for doing watercoloring. All I'm doing is taking this little tray and I'm adding a couple drops into each of those wells. Now, with any liquid watercolor, you are going to get the most vibrant color by using what you have in the little tray. The more water you add to your brush or your project, the more diluted that color is going to be. So here I took a flat brush and I just added some water to my brush, kind of dabbed off the excess water and picked up that first color and just made a swish across my cardstock. Now I apologize, some of the lighting here shifts a little bit, so it may be hard to tell the difference on camera, but you can definitely see the difference between the colors in person. And they definitely live up to their name. Very neon and very bright. So I will go through each of these colors and make that swish mark. And I'm going to keep this with me all the time in my watercolors. So that way I always know what they look like right on the cardstock. So once I have these all swatched out, I can kind of get an idea what colors I want to use for my background. Now to do my background, I'm going to use a full sheet of that Luxe watercolor paper and I'm going to adhere it down to a hard work surface with some masking tape. Now this work surface I'm actually using is a plate from my Spellbinders system. This works really good because it's portable. I can pick it up, move it out of the way to let my watercolors dry. You really want to tape your paper down to a hard work surface so that way when you're adding water, your paper is not buckling or warping and folding up on you. So after I have all the edges adhered down, I wet my paintbrush and I also wet my cardstock with a lot of water. And when I pick up that watercolor, it is going to kind of wick out. You can see how once I added the color, it kind of started to dribble down into the rest of the cardstock. That's called wicking. And as I went down the cardstock and smoothed that out, you could see how it started to fade off a little bit. I cleaned my paintbrush with some clean water and I picked up some of the bright pink. Now, with that, I started a little bit below my purple and worked up into the purple to kind of help smooth out the transition. And I'm going to do the same thing using the Sunshine watercolor. Now, what's really great is when you work the sunshine into the pink, it's going to create kind of this orange. I wasn't getting as good of a transition as I wanted, so I went back in and picked up some more of that pink. Now, after I have this layer done, I'm going to set this off on the side to dry for a little while. After I come back to it, I can kind of feel it. If it still feels a little cool to the touch, that means it's not dry yet. And I'm going to come in with a Ranger heat tool and just go over that to help speed up that drying process. Now that that's dry, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to repeat those steps, except this time I am not wetting the watercolor paper first. I'm just going to wet my paintbrush and pick up those same colors and work my way down that front of the cardstock. The reason I'm doing this is because as that watercolor had dried, it does tend to fade back, and I really want this to be a nice bright neon background. So again, I worked my way down the front of the cardstock, trying to blend that together. And then I'm also going to bring in some white iridescent shimmer spray, spray that over the top, and I also sprayed it with some clean water in a spray bottle. And all I'm doing here is I'm picking up my plate and moving it around and letting those watercolors kind of move into each other organically. This is really going to give it more of a natural look. So, of course, I have some excess water kind of pooling up on the sides that I can just wipe up with a paper towel. So, here is a closer look at how you could see that is all kind of blending together beautifully. I did go ahead and dry that background with my heat tool. So then once this is all completely dry, I'm going to take my masking tape, and the best way to remove this is to peel it back onto itself. If you look up at the top there, I'm really flattening that against the plate, and this is going to help give me a beautiful removal. I'm not tearing my cardstock, and you can see I get this super clean edge. So I did that to all the edges. Now you could use your card front just like this. Those edges really came out great here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a panel to the front. I wanted to kind of tone down the front of the card just a little bit. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm using an Arches Infinity die and I'm centering that onto some white cardstock. I will hold this down with some Post-it tape and run that through my die cut machine. I'm taking both panels over to my Misti stamping tool and I laid them on top of each other, and that's helping me arrange these floral imprints stamps. These are going to give some silhouette images, and I wanted to kind of frame my arch on one side. So once I had lined up the stamp, I removed that frame, the top piece, and I'm stamping this down. Now I am stamping in some Versafine black ink, but no matter what ink you use, being that it's watercolor paper, you are going to have to stamp it multiple times because watercolor paper is textured and does require multiple stampings of the image to get a really good clean impression. So I have that first image stamped down. I cleaned it, brought in another image and stamped that down in the corner. Again, stamping it multiple times to get that really nice black impression. And then I have my third one here that's going to be peeking up from the bottom. I'm always coming in and using that top layer as a guide, but you want to make sure you remove it so you don't get any ink on it. After I have all of my floral images in there, I'm going to bring in a sentiment. Now, this one comes from the Tulip Field Heroscape. I thought it fit in perfectly, and I really love bringing in my older stamp sets. So I inked that up with that black ink as well, stamped that down multiple times to be able to get that really good clean impression. Now I'm going to take that front panel with the arch cut out of it, and I'm going to line the back of it with some foam tape. I just wanted to add a little bit of dimension and pop up that window, but you could also make this a shaker card. So after I remove the backing, I'm going to line that up in the bottom corner and just gently let this fall down over my background. I'll gently push that down to secure that in place, and then I'm going to attach this to a side folding card base. So this card size is 4¼ by 5½. Now I could definitely have embellished this with some beautiful sequins, but I decided to leave it as is and really let those silhouette images and that background be my focal point. And that's going to finish up my card project for today. If you haven't tried the neon liquid watercolors, I do highly recommend them. They are beautiful for backgrounds like this and also for watercoloring your images. And again, I sincerely apologize for my voice today. Hopefully, I recover very soon. I want to thank you so much for sticking with me today during this, and I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again real soon.